Welcome back, gearheads. In the 1980s, while muscle cars took a back seat and boxy sedans ruled the streets, a few American automakers slipped performance into the most unsuspecting packages. No spoilers, no hype, just quiet power. One of these cars could dust a Mustang in a straight line, but most people just saw it as their uncle's grocery getter. These are the 12 unknown American sleepers cars of the 1980s. Number 12, 1984, Buick Century T-Type. A car built for retirement homes, but quick enough to spook a Camaro? Let's talk about the Buick Century T-Type. After all, it was your average mid-size commuter, a car you'd expect to see in a retirement home parking lot, not the drag strip. But the 1984 Century T-Type quietly flipped that image on its head. Buick had already started experimenting with turbocharging in the early 80s, and while the Regal Grand National hogged the spotlight, the Century T-Type was its under-the-radar sibling. Under the hood, it carried a 3.8-liter turbocharged V6 producing around 150 horsepower and 200 pound-feet of torque. That might not sound like much today, but in a car that weighed under 3,200 pounds, it was enough to get the Century moving 0 to 60 in under 9 seconds. Respectable for a car that looked more at home at PTA meetings than stoplight showdowns. The Century T-Type also came with upgraded suspension, firmer steering, and blackout trim to hint, very subtly, at its performance aspirations. It wasn't flashy, and that's exactly what made it dangerous. People simply didn't expect this beige Buick to pull away from them when the light turned green, but it wasn't without its flaws. The transmission was sluggish, and the front-wheel drive setup meant torque steer could catch you off guard. The styling didn't age as well as some of its siblings, and despite the T-Type badge, it never gained much love from collectors or enthusiasts. Still, that's exactly why it earns a spot on this list. It flew low, stayed quiet, and packed more punch than its curbside appearance ever let on. And as the next car proves, Buick wasn't the only brand sneaking speed into unexpected places. Number 11, 1986, Ford LTD LX. If the Buick Century T-Type was a surprise, the Ford LTD LX took things a step further by hiding muscle car DNA in the shell of a government-issue sedan. The LTD LX looked like something straight out of a municipal parking lot, square, conservative, and utterly forgettable. But Ford had other ideas for this boxy four-door. In the early 1980s, Ford was deep into the Fox body era, and the LTD LX was quietly built on that same versatile platform. That meant it shared more than a little with the Mustang GT of the time, specifically the 5-liter high-output V8. It cranked out 165 horsepower and 245 pound-feet of torque, fed through a 4-speed automatic with a performance shift pattern. On paper, that pushed the LTD LX from 0 to 60 in around 8.5 seconds. Not blazing fast by modern standards, but for a full-size American sedan in 1986, it raised eyebrows. It wasn't just about straight-line power either. Ford tuned the suspension for handling, added a rear sway bar, installed 4-wheel disc brakes, and gave it subtle but sportier visual cues: blackout trim, turbine wheels, and a unique LX badge. But unless you knew exactly what you were looking at, it just looked like another car your uncle might drive to the office. Its weaknesses weren't hard to find. The interior was plain, the automatic transmission didn't always make the most of that V8, and it never received the marketing push that the Mustang or Thunderbird did. As a result, production numbers stayed low, just under 3,300 units in its final year. But that obscurity is exactly what made the LTD LX such a perfect sleeper. And the next car on the list? It took the same stealthy formula and added a little more attitude. Number 10, 1987 Dodge Lancer Shelby. Moving from the conservative lines of the LTD LX, the next car came with a sharper edge, but still hid in plain sight. It looked like a rental car pulled straight from an airport lot, until you checked the build sheet and found a surprising name stamped across it: Carroll Shelby. After the muscle car era faded, Dodge turned to smaller, turbocharged 4 cylinders to bring performance back into the spotlight. The Lancer Shelby was part of this rebirth. It started life as a standard Dodge Lancer, a mid-size front-wheel drive sedan that blended into traffic. But Shelby took 800 of them and gave each one a healthy dose of tuning magic. Power came from a turbocharged 2.2-liter inline-4, producing 175 horsepower and 175 pound-feet of torque. That was enough to launch it from 0 to 60 in about 7.2 seconds, which made it faster than many V8s of the time. It wasn't just the power that made it special. Shelby gave it upgraded suspension, quicker steering, vented 4-wheel disc brakes, and even a leather-wrapped Momo steering wheel, features rarely found on a Dodge sedan. The body got some subtle tweaks, but nothing loud or over the top. It still looked like a regular Lancer, which made it easy to underestimate. But the Lancer Shelby had its flaws. Turbo lag was noticeable, and the build quality didn't always inspire confidence. Interior plastics were cheap, and the styling, even with the Shelby touches, wasn't exactly timeless. Still, it struck a balance between anonymity and aggression, in a way few cars managed at the time. And while Shelby's work on the Lancer didn't grab headlines like the Mustangs of old, the next car proves that even GM knew how to tuck performance into something completely unexpected. Number 9. 1984 Chevrolet Celebrity Eurosport VR. After the Lancer Shelby's unexpected punch, the Chevrolet Celebrity Eurosport VR kept a low-profile theme going, maybe even too well. This one looked like a rental car with a body kit, but there was more happening underneath than the average driver ever realized. By the mid-1980s, GM's A-body platform was all over American roads. The Chevrolet Celebrity was the family hauler of choice, reliable, boxy, and thoroughly unremarkable. But in a quiet effort to compete with European sport sedans, Chevrolet introduced the Eurosport VR. It wasn't a mass-produced trim. It was a dealer-installed performance package created by Choo Choo Customs of Tennessee. Only about 200 units were ever made, making it one of the rarest on this list. Under the hood, it offered a 2.8-liter V6, pushing 130 horsepower and 160 pound-feet of torque. Not earth-shattering, but enough to push the lightweight body from 0 to 60 in around 9 seconds. What mattered more was the handling. The Eurosport VR got stiffer suspension, sport-tuned shocks, better tires, and a quicker steering ratio. It hugged corners tighter than any other Celebrity and felt planted in a way most front-wheel drive sedans of the era didn't. But there were trade-offs. It still used the standard 3-speed automatic, which held back performance. Interior quality was basic, and outside of the red accents and aggressive cladding, it was still clearly a budget car underneath. It never had a chance to stand out, especially with such a limited production run. Still, for those lucky enough to find one today, it's a rare reminder that even the most beige cars of the 80s could hide a secret edge. Like uncovering forgotten machines like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more sleepers coming up you won't want to miss. Number 8. 1985 Pontiac 6000 STE. Coming off the heels of the rare Eurosport VR, the 1985 Pontiac 6000 STE didn't just continue the sports sedan conversation, it rewrote the script. While the Chevy Celebrity flirted with flair, the STE brought real engineering to the table, making it one of GM's most quietly confident punches at the European elite. BMW who? Pontiac's 6000 STE didn't just look the part, it challenged the Euro crowd with surprising precision. Pontiac launched the STE Special Touring Edition as its answer to the rising tide of Bavarian dominance. Built on the same A-body as the Celebrity, the STE came armed with a 2.8-liter V6 pushing out 135 horsepower and 165 pound-feet of torque. That translated to 0 to 60 times in the mid-90s, modest on paper but matched with handling that left jaws on twisty roads. With four-wheel independent suspension, four-wheel disc brakes, quicker steering, and a chassis that actually communicated with the driver, this car didn't just turn, it carved. Inside, it leaned into the tech-forward future, a digital dashboard, onboard trip computer, rally-style gauges, all wrapped in a package that could have easily been mistaken for a teacher's car in the school parking lot. But the moment it hit an on-ramp, it told a very different story. Still, it wasn't without flaws. The 3-speed auto held it back, and the torque steer reminded you this was still a front-wheel drive GM product. But flaws and all, it made a bold statement. You didn't need a German badge to feel connected to the road. So what do you think? Was the STE a breakout performer that got overshadowed, or just a mid-level sedan with a loud exhaust? Drop a comment and let me know. Number 7. 1989 Mercury Cougar XR7 Supercharged. While the Pontiac 6000 STE flirted with European refinement, the 1989 Mercury Cougar XR7 brought brute force back into the conversation, quietly. By the end of the 80s, most people had written off the Cougar as a soft, personal luxury coupe. But in 1989, Mercury quietly rewired that image with a version that most people didn't see coming. This new XR7 was built on Ford's MN12 platform, shared with the Thunderbird Super Coupe, and it brought real engineering to the table. Power came from a supercharged 3.8-liter V6, pushing out 210 horsepower and 315 pound-feet of torque. That was a big jump from the outgoing V8s of previous years, and it showed on the road. With 0 to 60 times in the low 7-second range, this thing moved faster than it looked, especially for something often parked next to beige sedans at your local grocery store. The suspension was fully independent, the chassis was stiffer than before, and it came standard with a 5-speed manual, something you'd never expect in a Mercury at the time. It even had optional automatic ride control and a host of comfort features that made it equally capable on a twisty road or long highway cruise. Still, the weight was a problem. At over 3,700 pounds, the XR7 wasn't exactly nimble, and despite all the tech, it lacked the polished steering feel of European rivals. But it didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to outrun expectations, and it did that well. The XR7 made a statement without needing flashy badges or bold styling. It whispered performance through a padded vinyl roof, and sometimes that's what makes a true sleeper. Number 6. 1989 Ford Thunderbird SC. Sliding over from the Cougar XR7, it only makes sense to stop at its close cousin, the 1989 Ford Thunderbird Super Coupe. Both cars shared the same MN12 platform and a mission to shake off their image as aging personal luxury cruisers. But the Thunderbird SC took things even further. Under the hood sat the same Eaton M90 supercharged 3.8-liter V6, producing 210 horsepower and a hefty 315 pound-feet of torque. But it wasn't just about numbers. The Super Coupe was engineered with balance in mind. Ford fitted it with a fully independent suspension, 4-wheel disc brakes, and even adjustable shocks. That gave the Thunderbird a level of handling precision that was rare for any American car in this price range at the time. 0 to 60 came in at about 7 seconds flat, respectable for 1989, and surprisingly quick for something that still looked like a banker's commuter car. It even offered a 5-speed manual, which gave drivers real control over that torque-heavy engine. The SC didn't shout for attention. It waited quietly at the light, then pulled away stronger than most expected. But for all its engineering strengths, the Super Coupe was not light on its feet. Weighing nearly 3,800 pounds, it could feel a bit sluggish in tight corners. And while it promised grand touring comfort, the cabin tech aged quickly, and repairs weren't always cheap once the system started wearing down. Still, the Thunderbird SC was one of Ford's most ambitious attempts at blending power with subtlety. It gave enthusiasts something to smile about without needing a Mustang badge to prove it. Up next, we're heading toward a GM sleeper with serious turbo credentials. Stay tuned. Number 5. 1986 Oldsmobile Cutlass Ciera GT. Following the precision-engineered Thunderbird SC, we moved to something a little more under the radar, the 1986 Oldsmobile Cutlass Ciera GT. Most people remember the Ciera as a dependable family car, a front-wheel drive A-body that quietly moved groceries and kids around suburban America. But for a brief window in the mid-80s, Oldsmobile gave it a sharper edge. The GT variant took the safe, boxy Ciera and added just enough upgrades to make it interesting. It came equipped with a 3.8-liter V6, churning out 150 horsepower and 200 pound-feet of torque, respectable numbers for a mid-size front-wheel drive sedan of the time. Paired with a 4-speed automatic, it could hit 0 to 60 in about 9 seconds. Not blistering, but more than enough to catch people off guard in traffic, especially given its humble looks. What made the GT stand out wasn't just its power, it was the subtle enhancements. Stiffer suspension, quicker steering, and a sportier exhaust tone gave it an edge, while exterior cues like blacked-out trim and unique alloy wheels hinted, just barely, that this wasn't your average Olds. Inside, you got bolstered seats and a sport steering wheel, a small nod to performance enthusiasts, but it had its limitations. The transmission was slow to downshift, and torque steer under heavy throttle reminded you that this was still a front-wheel drive economy platform at heart. The car never fully shed its commuter roots, and that's part of what makes it such a hidden gem. It was a sleeper in every sense, quiet, unassuming, and easy to miss unless you knew what to look for. And coming up next, we take a turn into turbocharged territory with a Buick that's been overshadowed for far too long. Number 4. 1989 Pontiac Grand Prix Turbo Coupe. As we leave the understated Oldsmobile Cutlass Ciera GT behind, we enter a world of turbocharged excitement with the 1989 Pontiac Grand Prix Turbo Coupe, specially built by ASC/McLaren. While Pontiac was mostly known for its muscle cars like the Firebird, this turbocharged version of the Grand Prix flew largely under the radar, and with good reason. It was unlike anything else the brand had produced before. This car wasn't just a performance trim, it was a collaboration between Pontiac and the legendary McLaren Group, who were known for pushing the boundaries of automotive design. Under the hood, the 3.1-liter turbocharged V6 engine produced 205 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque. It could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 7.2 seconds. Impressive for a car that still looked like a modest two-door coupe. The Grand Prix's smooth aerodynamic lines, unique body kit, and McLaren-branded details made it appear more like a luxury cruiser than a performance machine. But let's be clear, the power was there. The turbocharged engine provided a smooth, yet potent kick when you floored it. Paired with a 4-speed automatic transmission, the Grand Prix Turbo Coupe was quick and refined, but it had one major flaw: its rare and expensive nature. Only about 1,500 of these cars were made, making it a rare find even when new, and even rarer today. This car might have been a little overshadowed by the flashier models of the era, but it was a turbocharged sleeper with a legacy that was quietly impressive. Want to see more cars like this? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and keep up with the hidden gems of the automotive world. Number 3. 1984 Lincoln Continental Mark. Moving on from the turbocharged Pontiac Grand Prix Turbo Coupe, we step into a world of luxury and performance with the 1984 Lincoln Continental Mark 7 LSC. At first glance, it may appear to be just another posh, full-size luxury coupe. However, under the surface, this car was hiding a serious performance edge. The Mark 7 LSC was designed to compete with European sedans, but Lincoln's engineers had other plans, and they gave it a secret weapon: performance. Equipped with a 5-liter V8 engine, the LSC produced 200 horsepower and 275 pound-feet of torque, which gave it more than enough muscle to move quickly despite its refined, elegant appearance. The 0 to 60 mile/hour time of 8.1 seconds wasn't blistering by today's standards, but in the early 80s, it was more than enough to put this car in the performance category, not just the luxury segment. The car's smooth handling, sharp steering, and sophisticated suspension system made it feel more like a sports sedan than a traditional cruiser, and it managed to do all of this while keeping its quiet, comfortable ride intact. However, there was one flaw that prevented it from being a mainstream hit: its niche appeal. The Mark 7 LSC was a luxury car with performance, but many people were unsure whether to categorize it as a sports coupe or a plush cruiser. As a result, it didn't attract the kind of attention it deserved. Still, it was a bold move by Lincoln and a glimpse into how American automakers were starting to blend luxury with performance. Have you ever seen one on the road? Drop a comment and let me know. Number 2. 1989 Chevy Beretta GTZ Quad 4 HO. Shifting gears from the luxurious yet surprisingly quick Lincoln Continental Mark 7 LSC, we arrive at a true American underdog, the 1989 Chevy Beretta GTZ. While the Beretta was already known for its sporty design, the GTZ variant was a performance-focused sleeper that most people overlooked. But if you were one of the few who knew what was hiding under the hood, you were in for a treat. The heart of the Beretta GTZ was its 2.3-liter Quad 4 high-output HO engine, a high-revving beast tucked inside an unassuming shell. Small car, big mouth, and a Quad 4 that screamed all the way to 7,000 RPM. It made 180 horsepower and 160 pound-feet of torque, which was wild for a front-wheel drive coupe in the late 80s. With a 0 to 60 time of about 7.5 seconds, it punched well above its weight. Lightweight, edgy, and loud in every sense, the GTZ wasn't built to cruise, it was built to fight, and it made sure you heard every bit of that struggle. While it excelled in power and acceleration, the Beretta GTZ wasn't without its flaws. The chassis, though sporty, didn't match the aggressive engine, which meant handling could feel a bit stiff on tight corners. Its looks also weren't universally loved. Some found the design a little too conservative for a car with such a potent engine. But the truth was clear. This was a car that offered a fun, fast experience without the flashy reputation. Would you take this sleeper over some of the more obvious performance cars from the era? Drop a comment and let me know. Number 1. 1985 Buick Electra T-Type. Finally, you've made it to number 1, and trust me, this one blindsided everyone, even the people who drove it. While the 1985 Buick Electra T-Type was known for its luxury vehicles, the Electra T-Type quietly stood out as a performance car hiding in plain sight. Unlike other muscle cars of the era, the Electra T-Type didn't scream performance, but when you hit the accelerator, it sure delivered. Under the hood, the Electra T-Type was powered by a 3.8-liter V6 turbocharged engine that generated a solid 190 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. These numbers weren't jaw-dropping by today's standards, but in the mid-80s, they were enough to give this full-size sedan a 0 to 60 miles per hour time of around 7 seconds, which was impressive for a car of its size. The turbocharged engine added an extra layer of excitement, making it feel like a true sleeper, unassuming from the outside but capable of delivering quick acceleration when pushed. But like all sleepers, the Electra T-Type had its flaws. While it had the power and acceleration, the handling wasn't as sharp as some might expect from a performance vehicle. Its luxury-oriented suspension meant it lacked the sportier feel of its competitors, making it more of a straight-line performer than a corner carver. Despite this, the Electra T-Type still managed to punch above its weight, offering a unique blend of comfort and performance. Which of these 12 sleepers would you take for a late-night ride? Quiet, unassuming, but ready to shock? Drop your choice below, hit subscribe, and stay tuned. Our next list is full of hidden beasts